Yep, I got it. So then just for the folks who are just joining us on our recording, we just started to talk about the general ledger and what its purpose is and how conceptually it's actually not too hard. And so now that you actually have this template provided by Looney, it can be quite a lot easier actually. So the basic things, just to go through it, obviously the dates, the type, which you guys might set the type yourselves. We can go into what type of expenses there might be later. Expenses and income, let's say. Description, so you can remember what it is. Who, again, so you can remember who your vendors are or who your clients are. And this is income, in, and this is out. So that's the stuff you're expending on. So those kind of columns are really great. So perhaps we can go, well, let's see what kind of questions could there be at this point. How to fill out each one of these rows every time there's an expense or an income. I think the important thing that's a little bit more not difficult, but everything is super easy. Like, this is easy to fill out. You know how much money you have income, you know how much money outcome with each transaction, you know who did it, you can easily figure out how to describe it, you know what date. So the thing that you want to figure out ahead of time with yourself are what kind of categories that you're going to have. So you can figure out what kind of categories. So it might be, in this case, they have office rent, a category, a basic category is customer. So the customer is what they call everything that's incoming. You might have two different types of customers. So you might have like an individual or a farm producer company. So you just need to figure out your own categories. And I saw there was a chat. Any good questions in there? Okay, so another question is, after doing the assignments, give my Looney, do we have to send it to you? So there's only a few documents that you'll need to submit to us during this whole program. Everything else is optional. And we are putting the document submission portal onto Mighty Networks, and we'll also share it again with you guys later today. And that is if you guys want feedback on some of your stuff. So this is not a required homework, but if you wanted feedback, you can say, look, I made this ledger, I made this P&L, I have this question about it, what do you think? So that's that questions. Are the categories that are required on your tax returns? So Abraham, I think it's a really great point that if you have, every country has tax returns that they fill out, and if you can reference the categories that are given by your taxes, that can be really helpful, because then of course you can easily sort that at the end of the year for your taxes as well. So I think that that's a good idea. And a lot of those categories do seem to make sense as well, for your business. So thanks so much for that idea. Then we have a question from Simfiwi. What's the difference between type and description? Perfect. So type is like a category. So it's like, again, as I believe Abraham was saying, you can, one place to start to decide your categories is take a look at your country's tax return forms for your business. And you can see what categories they ask you for. So of course, in my country, they do have categories for office rent. They have categories for travel, for marketing, for these kind of general business expenses, as well as income. So that can be a good category. But if you just called everything travel, you might not know what it was for. So you want to remind yourself what it's for. So this is where you can basically call it, whatever you want, so that you can remember it. And this is also helpful. So you can, if you want to, so basically this is a big database, and anytime you want to mess with it, you can always, make a copy of it, put it into a new spreadsheet, and then sort things however you want, so if you wanted to see how many times you sold to XYZ Corp to see how much they were buying, you could easily see, oh, I sold to them twice, but I only sold to ABC Corp one time. So that's some of the ways that you can actually use the ledger in a powerful way. And we have an idea from Divin. Wasn't it better to insert the date of the transaction just to know exactly what? Yeah, exactly. So you want to have the date that the transaction was made on. These dates are, in theory, the dates that these were made on, you know, because this is all just sample. So yeah, you definitely want to put the date that the money went out or that the money came in. I wonder if that's answering that. Samuel, I wonder if you wanted to start taking over some of this is now as well because of your background in finance.
Yeah, thanks Amanda for explaining. I believe now it's clear for the general ledger. And my assumption is just in case you don't have a computer or you don't have access to the Excel, I believe this is equally doable. You can be able to prepare this, for example, in a book. And I've also seen, like here in Kenya, we do have ledger being sold in supermarket. So you may want to go and buy that one and check whether it has all these details, or you can be able to customize it. Just get a square book and have all these columns where you can be able to fill. The other trend I've been able to see here in Kenya, and I'm happy to hear the story of Elizabeth, is we have seen now with how IT is growing, we have seen people customizing this into an application. So what happens is if I'm in the field, I only need my mobile phone just to be able to input, and it's going to actually fit in the right category. I don't know whether it's the same experience in other countries, but the underlying keyword here, what we are trying to say is there is need to be able to prepare these basic books of account, because it is through these that we'll be able to give confidence to investors, even as we support you and even as you go ahead in mobilizing resources for your organization. Yeah, so keep that in mind. Perhaps the bigger boys or girls in business may be wondering why we are doing this, but it's for that reason. We really want everybody to be conversant with this information. Yeah, thank you, Amanda.
Then we're about halfway through with our meeting, so I want to take just a few more minutes, of course, and see how this ledger can translate to other things that are really useful for your business. And then we want to hear from Elizabeth, who's joined us, about her goal for getting financing and what she saw in the due diligence processes that she's gone through. So going from the ledger to the P&L, I think is really important. So when I first joined at a bank, so I worked at a bank for 2.5 years, you know, I knew I could pick all this stuff up, but I felt intimidated, like just from the terminology, P&L, financials, what is it? What is it? So the first thing is, you know, if you feel at all intimidated, here's a place where you can just leave that intimidation at the door, because all financials can mean are what Looney said last time: profit and loss statement, a balance sheet, and some projections. There's maybe other things, cash flow statement or something, but really important right now is how to go from your ledger, your history of what's happening, to your P&L. So a lot of times the P&L is really just a grouping of different transactions that happen from your ledger. And the great thing about what Looney has set up is he's set up this template in a way that can group it for you. So again, some of you who might have accountants working for you, either on your staff or externally, might have systems set up. Can we have these documents in French? I think we can do this one in French. Michelle, would you be able to respond if we can have this one document in French? I think it would actually help a lot. So I'm trusting that Michelle will let you know on the French channel if that's going to be possible. We are actually translating all of the slides from this point to French. And so as soon as possible, we'll have that up. So before I answer Vincent's question, which I see his hand up, Vincent, if you feel like typing it in, that will be fine too. Let's just see what has gone through from the ledger to the profit and loss and how it looks. So this profit and loss is structured by quarters. Some of them are structured by months, and sometimes you just have the annual one. I'm going to close the chat box now so I can see more. And so sometimes you just have the annual one, which would, in this case would be column G. And it tells you by time period in what category different transactions happened. And so these transactions up here are the different income that you might have as a business. So in this business, they have 5 different income possibilities. They have income from when they make sales to a customers. They have licensing income. So maybe they have some sort of a software solution that they can license to businesses or something. Interest from different loans or their bank accounts would be earning interest. So usually you might have really small interest because I don't think anybody's earning a lot, but you know, a couple dollars here and there. Donations, so they might be getting donations, and that would be grants could fall under that as well. And any miscellaneous just to catch anything else. So then you can start to see all the different ways that all the income could add up. And then they have a lot of expenses. And again, this is where you might want to follow some of the categories that are given to you by your tax code as well. And so it groups a lot of those expenses together. So this travel category comes from the ledger where they actually have 3 different travel that has been going on. And so it adds it up into one grouped expense. So this is like a summary of everything that's been going on. And then over time, you can start to see where you spent more money, different trends, you know, which quarter do you have the most income? Which quarter do you have the most expenses? What expenses do you really need to watch and cut more on? So this is all about financial management, and the profit and loss sheet is really what every investor is going to want to look at. So I'm going to maybe stop there. Samuel, did you see any questions in the chat box or have anything to add?
Yes, there is a question from Bernard regarding the donation and how it's treated in the P&L. Is it treated as an income? And would this not distort financial strength of the company, even to investors? And I want to relate this question to what Madam Jane of Exotic Limited, she had asked during the class, how do you treat donations? How do you treat grants and repairable grants? So that's the question that is there. Amanda, do you want to give a try and then I can respond?
Sure, I think both of us can try, and I think there's different opinions. I would say that, you know, I don't know, because honestly, you know, I think in this case, donations for your business would be winning grants. And I don't think that makes your business look any weaker. If you're winning grants and you're able to talk about the great things that you've done with the donations. I know when I was in the lending industry, we would actually love it if companies got money from other sources and were able to use it in a meaningful way, because that meant that they had a greater capital stock of which they were taking advantage of. So for instance, let's just go to a basic company that everybody understands, a restaurant. So if we were working with a restaurant that recently received, you know, from some organization, a $50,000 grant, and, you know, they wouldn't just say, you know, when you get in the conversations, that's when you learn the story. You know, you'd say, okay, I see you want a $50,000 grant, you know, what happened? And the company could say, oh, actually, we were able to fix and install all the best cooking equipment. And so our food is like amazing now. Okay, that's awesome as an investor, because I know that you don't have to spend my money on something basic and you're already creating a good product. So I think donations actually make your company stronger, especially if you can really share about how you use the donations to improve your company. So that's what I'd have to say about donations. Samuel, anything to add?
Yes, thanks, Amanda. And I totally agree with you that with the donations, it does not really make your businesses weaker. In any case, it tends to strengthen also that trust from the investor perspective. But if I can remember how we were preparing the profit and loss, nowadays systems are there which really helps people to do this. As well, even with this Excel, I'm sure there's a way you can be able to align it. If I recall my accounting background, how we were doing it, first we were starting with income and expenses that are related to products. So you have income that you got, for example, you got through sales. So we were having sales. And then what followed was actually less cost of goods sold. So these are all expenses that were actually incurred when you are actually making those sales. So once you're through with that, so you'll be able to get that gross profit, which can be able to help you even when you're doing cost accounting to be able to know the cost per unit. The next thing that you are doing after that is actually bringing in other incomes. And that's why you could actually now indicate the likes of donation. If you had the gifts, you can as well be able to indicate there. That way, I think there's a difference between income that was generated, you producing, and other income that you have been able to receive. I don't know whether Bernard have been able to answer your question. We may also want to hear your story. How do you do it and how do you treat grant? That's if you have ever got one.
Yeah, you have answered. I think you have answered. I mean, if you separate them, because there are situations where probably you get more grants than the income that you are generating, and that's if you consider that, then and you are trying to get investors, especially equity, that might not, if they know that most of the income is coming from grant. Of course, that does not. There is no strong buy-in from them.
Yeah, true.
They might not want. Yeah, I mean, the strength of the company is basically the product, the actual income that come from the product, not donation, because donations are time bound. You get it this year, next year it will not be there. So that's what I meant. That probably there is a separate way you can actually reflect donation that does not interfere with the actual income from products.
Yeah, I can see your point now. But however, the fact that you separate donations from sales is doing what you're talking about, and people do deserve to see the full story of your company, because if they don't learn that you've had, let's say, $100,000 in donations, they might say, well, how did you even hire 7 people to work for you? Or how did you even build this processing plant? So they need to understand the story and why, but 100% agree that at the end of the day, they're going to be looking at cash flow from sales to decide if you have a sustainable business model. If you were able to start your business because you received donations, then that's fantastic. And, donations could even be, from your family or friends, if they gave you money without expecting equity in return, which you can imagine might happen in a family situation. Maybe your family believes in what you're doing and they wanted to, help you out with a gift to get you going. That's a gift, that's a donation, and that explains, and there's nothing wrong with that. We all as business owners have to look at what our assets actually are, because the fact is, as business owners, we're pulling together unique assets that other people don't have access to, and that's what makes the business model work. So maybe your asset was a $20,000 gift from your church or your family. Maybe your asset is that 300 farmers and you've gotten them to agree to implement this kind of change on their farm that's going to allow them to double their yield, and you're going to be able to aggregate that and sell a value-added product. There's different assets that we're all working with. So some of it's a gift, and I think it's okay. But yeah, you're really right, Bernard, that anyone who's going to want to see sales or, you know, income that's related to market forces.
Yeah, it's clear now.
I see Dr. Fulabi want to comment about it, maybe from an experience. Dr. Fulabi.
Mr. Samuel Kabiru, good afternoon, sir. Amanda, good afternoon. I'm going to be talking from two perspectives, sir. One, from an experience perspective, that's my exposure, and also as a fellow of Central Accountant and ACC UK. Now, there are two things we need to establish, sir, if a grant is given. One, is it for an asset or is it for an income? If that particular grant relates to an asset, there are two ways to treat that particular grant. One, we treat it as a deferred income. Two, we may decide to treat it by deducting it for the carry amount of an asset. That is the two way. If that particular grant actually relates to the asset, is either we treat it as a deferred income or the total amount will be deducted for the carry value of that particular asset. But in a case that that particular grant actually relates to income, what we do is we report it separately as other income, and then all the associated expenses, incomes will be deducted, and that is the two way it can be treated. The first we just need to do, understand the nature of the grant. Is it for asset acquisitions or is it to carry out the expense of that particular organization? And that is the way it will be done, sir. Thank you for giving me the opportunity to talk, sir. Thank you very much.
Yeah, thank you so much, Dr. Fulabi. Very good insight. And I saw somebody else who had the same thought. That is Abraham, treating the same as an increase in equity. And I believe that's related to now if it's being treated as an asset. So thank you so much, Dr. Fulabi, for clarifying that.
So I think at this point, maybe we'd like to start the conversation with Elizabeth from Botanic Treasures. I'm not sure, Elizabeth, if you're able to turn on your video, but we can just have a quick introduction to what your company does, and then we can just have a little conversation. So why don't you tell everybody what your company has been working on for the past couple of years?
I'm Elizabeth Mwenda from Botanic Treasures, and we are a health and wellness company, which opened its doors in 2012 after a lot of a bit of research from about 2008-9. And thank you, Amanda. You sent me some prodding questions, so I'll just dive into it. So Botanic Treasures met KCIC, who is current funding us to actually gain some growth. We've been plowing back since 2012, and the business began because I got my baby and I didn't have breast milk. I was a filmmaker, and then I got the baby, didn't have breast milk, and my husband was he was an agronomist working with a Japanese company, and in desperation, he asked the farmers what they give their wives when they don't have breast milk, and they said moringa. So moringa oleifera back in 2007 was a very rare word. There were no smartphones back then. So it was quite an uphill task trying to get the knowledge about what it was. Anyway, he came home with a moringa. In desperation, I took it. And within hours, my baby was choking on one breast and I had a cup on the other and I was all wet. So suddenly I was a freshen. And my mother-in-law, who was around and really, really excited and, wondering why her namesake was not getting enough milk, was suddenly very happy with me. And my stress was gone. and I got my dignity back, and I had a voice in the home, and it was amazing. And a year or two into that, I mean, that experience just kept haunting me, and I kept wondering how many women had worse experiences. Mine was just not being able to feed my baby, which was to me almost a near-death experience for my daughter. But for many women, it's a really hard and difficult time with many other complications. So business was born, and my mother-in-law and I are good friends, and we are directors of the company. It's purely women-owned. And from there, it took a while, but I started with just about $5. I quit film and went into health and wellness. I joined KU, Kenyatta University, and did nutrition as I learned more about Moringa. So I met KCIC while I was doing a lot of exhibitions, attending each and every opportunity that I could get, throwing myself out there, and just doing a lot in that space and educating people as much as I could. I'm just trying to screen share here how that was. Maybe you can help me. And as I continued going for each and every opportunity that was available to me, that's how I met KCIC. And there were quite I would do like practically everywhere. If I saw a tent and I wasn't even invited, I'd go there, talk to the organizer, plead my case. I'm here to represent this amazing, useful tree that needs to be known by every Kenyan. And I would get a table and I would exhibit. And through that, KCIC met. I got opportunities to even talk about Moringa to the current president, the previous president. I've gotten to meet the cabinet secretaries and all manner of people just pushing the agenda of why Moringa should be part of actually our national tree. So why is it important for us to actually put our finances together? And actually, let me go back, how the due diligence was. Wow, it was a very long one. It had clusters and clusters and clusters of questions, and that made me kind of rethink my business. I don't know, are you seeing my screen now?
I'm not yet seeing your screen. Oh, you know why? Let me, I have you spotlighted. Okay, try again. Maybe it will work. I had you spotlighted so everybody could see you.
Okay.
Try that again. But first of all, I just want to thank you for sharing your really personal story with us so far. I think it's really inspirational. I actually bought some moringa powder myself. I Googled it a lot and tried to find the highest quality that Google would, that Amazon would tell me. And I just started taking it. So now I'm really excited based on the stories that you just shared. So I want to thank you, and also really looking forward to hearing what the Kenyan Climate Innovation Centre, I believe that's what KCIC was meaning, is doing. So yeah. Now we can see your screen, and you just have to hit the present button that's at the screen now.
Okay, so basically that was my journey, and I've just explained. I'll go to the next screen. And what the first thing is, I had to create clarity on the problem that I was solving, which was basically malnutrition. And you may think malnutrition is mainly for children who do not get proper nutrition. No, malnutrition is even for those who have lifestyle diseases. You're malnourished because you're having a lot of empty calories and the body is not functioning right because of the lifestyle and the food choices you've had. So we are overnourished with the wrong things. That leads to disease. So that is a form of malnutrition. I was empowering women because we work with about 70% of our work staff and our farmers are women. And then the men do, of course, a lot of manual work. And as much as they own the farms, the women are the ones who make the daily wage. Yeah, and that also helped me to create, to show why it was important for my business to be part of KCIC, which is Kenya Climate Change Innovation Centre. Then the other thing is, as we now moved into the COVID season in 2020, we've been able to partner with people like Kenya Medical Research Institute in Kenya to prove why moringa can work to boost in your immunity. So we're doing a research on the immunology of moringa. So that cropped up and we added it. Then we were the solution because moringa has all these nutrients. It has 96 nutrients. It's able to nourish, to detox, to rejuvenate your body cells, to renew you. It's just amazing what it does to your body. It energizes you. You sleep so well. You're so productive, and that's very important. Part of that the documents they wanted was, would this, because it was totally an orphaned crop. Nobody knew about moringa in Kenya in 2007. There was a lot of research, wild agroforestry, KARI, which is like our research center for livestock and all manner of agricultural plants and all. They needed to know, would we make money? And so we had to prove that we could make money. And globally, we were going to be at $25 billion. So it looked very, very viable, very viable. And so that was the market that we were creating. And they didn't see that, of course, from a small company at that point, then you have to show numbers globally, because that's where we were going. We wanted to be an international company exporting to big companies like Body Shop and all these other, and Kuli Kuli, who is like one of the leading moringa companies in the US. Then we had to show what we were doing locally. Yeah, we were already supplying in over 150 outlets. We were selling bulk to the leading health food store in the country. We were the main supplier for moringa and a few other superfoods. And that showed we were growing. We had been doing something. We had to show a competitive advantage. Yeah, we had to prove that we knew who our competition was. Our products were proven and fairly priced and could compete with the older boys and girls who were out there already. We had to show how we were supporting the farmers, show the impact we had. We had to show our partners, the people who had actually helped us to get where we were. Kenya Medical Research Institute, the UC Davis Nutrition Department has been offering us a lot of support with our farmers on agronomy, coming, even sending their master's students to come show our farmers what spacing would give what yield. If they irrigated, how would that increase their yield? Many of them are doing an acre, so how do we maximize that? Because they have to do their staples. So those partnerships are so important for you to get traction. Then we had to show also our consumers and show the value we're creating with our consumers. The impact, which is so important for KCIC, because they're here for climate change, and they're here to show that climate change can also be achieved while we are supporting livelihoods. People are moving from single unit, small mud houses into 3-4 bedroomed brick houses. How are we cleaning the air? How are we mitigating climate change? So we had to prove that we were actually transforming not only the environment, but lives of people. That's a repeat of our partners. We had to show who our team was, who we were working with, who is the finance and strategy, because that's very important. You can also see Amanda and the group have made it like one of the key pillars to be able to show and prove that, have you been keeping your receipts? We had been keeping our receipts since 2012. We had been doing, having a proper accounting system. but it was very hard because we tried working with internal accountants. Some of them are not competent. So this lesson that we did on Tuesday and again today is so fundamental, because if you don't know your books, if you don't even have an idea, I'm not very good with numbers, I must tell you. In math class, they used to look like flowers to me. I had to really take time to understand, because we had accountants who would not even bank money and they would gamble. There's a time Kenya gambling was like the greatest thing. And the accountant, instead of banking what we were getting directly from our shops, would actually gamble with the money and then bank it after. And he was in like several. So if you don't know, from a glance, you cannot be able to tell, and you're not able to track the deposits every day that are being made, you're not able to get information from the shops on a daily basis, what is sold and what is banked, then you're lost, because they're very clever. And if you're not able to just look at your P&L or to look at the statements and see, okay, I know on Monday this was banked, and from the text message in your phone, you can be able to track, okay, this has come in today, this was sold yesterday, it has been banked today, and this is how much is the balance in my bank. They will play around with you. You will lose a lot of money. So eventually we've actually moved to an external accountant because we realized even having them in-house, there's no much work for you to keep somebody there. It just creates another person to manage. And we've also brought in applications that are really helpful. In Kenya, we have WorkPay. WorkPay helps you to track all your payments. And all that information is for you to be able to access just at a button. It helps you manage your HR, their leave days, their clock in the morning and when they leave. And they're able to load the petty cash that is being used on a daily basis by each and every person, whether it's the merchandisers, whether it's the office administrator, whether it's the delivery person, what they're fueling, what they're using. So WorkPay has really centralized everything. Then we've also have another local app that is called User Point. It's the best thing that ever happened to me. I mean, it's amazing. I hope you can be able to access it in the different countries you are in. User Point helps you to manage everything from what you deliver to the supermarkets to your POS right in your shop where you're selling. And it synchronizes all the different shops. It has a till for every, if it's your store or the factory where you're dispensing, you have a till for that. You have a till for the different shops. So you're able to have, instead of having like Sage, like we used to have Sage, and we used to have QuickBooks. So to merge those two, it was such a headache for the accountant. But with User Point, you're able to run the whole, back to back from your factory to your point of sale. And that is amazing you cannot imagine that. It was an amazing opportunity. Then we have Slack. Slack helps us to collect the receipts, all your groceries, or your any expenses that you're not able to do with WorkPay. Then you're able to take photographs of the receipts, and you can be able to synchronize that with WorkPay. ClickUp helps with workflow. ClickUp, Slack and ClickUp, you can find them online, and they're very good systems that you can use to just bring cohesion between your staff, the accounting, and everything that you're doing. So I think in a nutshell, is there anything I've forgotten, Amanda? What did the projections or the 3-year projections that we had to do? How did we do that? We looked at our growth. Over the years, we discovered that we were growing at 100% every year, because we were doing a lot. We were covering every exhibition that we could get our hands on. We were going to China, we had gone to Korea, We had gone to Rwanda, we had gone to Congo, we had gone to Tanzania. So any opportunity the government threw at us through the Export Promotion Council and Brand Kenya, we did that. We are going to Dubai. There's a 6-month exhibition in Dubai. It's a global exhibition. We'll be there. So we have been trying to grow as much traction as possible, even during this COVID season, which has been very difficult. And I know for a lot of us trying to transition from analog and direct selling to using social media and creating awareness. So that helped us to now build, have a projection for the 3 years. We looked at how we were growing. We looked at the export market and the inquiries we were getting, even if we were not organic certified. We believe through this opportunity with the Land Accelerator and our different partners, we'll be able to certify our farm. Pre-COVID, part of our agenda and strategy for the business was to have a nuclear farm, like a demo farm, where we could be able to now flat out grow our moringa. And you can imagine when COVID knocked in, we had farmers who were working with the suppliers we had, like the supermarkets, are not paying on time because they're also cash strapped. They have their loans, so they hold your money to be able to sort their issues. And so that leaves you in a crisis with the farmers. So having our nuclear farm just came like right on the mark. So planning ahead, strategizing, seeing where you're going and having a clear picture and working towards it is very important. The help will find you going. Just keep going and the help will find you going. So we got the strategy. That's how we were able to actually come up with the 3-year projections. The budget. We had a budget. It was somewhere in I don't know if I can be able to do that. We had to actually prove to KCIC. Those were our projections up to 2025. Then we had to have a budget. And the budget, we had to list everything that we felt we needed for us to have exponential growth. And you look at all the key things that your business requires for you to be able to now move from like a growing or not even a startup, but a growing business to a now scaling up totally to be profitable. So the machines we needed, the partnerships we required, the staff we required, because without staff, you cannot really scale up. If you've been having staff that you're just growing with, and you need staff that is even brighter and clever than you, or who can be able to help you to grow to where you want to be. We had to rebrand. We're actually rebranding. These are some of our products. I don't know if you can see, these are man's product. I made it for my dad. It's very amazing for prostate health and very popular. We had to show that we were very innovative as well. So we have had to get machinery to like sachet this product. It's a blend of baobab, moringa, and 5 other products, and sweetened with raw stevia. We grow stevia in our farms, which is a 0-calorie sweetener. So we are moving from this can to now sachet, like 2 to 5 gram sachets, which you can carry to the office. So that was very important in our projections and the funding that we were looking for. And the milestones, getting Seed Award in 2015, being able to be endorsed by the president to grow moringa in primary schools in the country, and also our impact. So thank you so much. It's been amazing just being here, and thanks to you, Samuel and Amanda, for having me. Thank you so much.
Well, thank you so much too. I realize we are 2 minutes over, but I think that anyone who still has time, and if you do, we definitely want to open up this to any questions that people might have for you, particularly, especially after hearing that really inspirational story. And just some of the general remarks I would say, some observations is, product first. You know, you really put a lot into having an amazing product. You did research and development for years before launching and continued to look at what the market wants, and you've developed products for specific needs, now combining more, you know, botanicals in addition to moringa. You just mentioned, of course, that second one for the prostate health. So product and sales first, but then record keeping along the way, so that you're building trust and you're building a track record of growth that people can see. So with those kind of comments, I wonder, would anybody like to unmute themselves and just ask any question? I thought there'd be a lot of questions. Everybody seemed pretty inspired. Let's see.
I have one.
Okay,
Hello,
great.
everyone.
Hello.
Yes, I'm so inspired, Elizabeth. Thank you so much. Yeah, I like Moringa. And now I have been encouraged. I guess I'll grow more. I just have maybe half acre, but I think I'll plant more. I'm calling from Malawi. I wanted to ask, when you had this problem of breastfeeding, did you use a fresh moringa or the processed moringa? Or now, what do you advise people to use if they have a similar problem? Or both fresh as well as processed moringa work the same?
I used the dry moringa. The farmers had actually, an NGO had gone to this town, it's very much near the coastal region, and shown the farmers to grow it, and they had said they'd come to buy. So they had moringa, but they didn't have anybody to sell it to. So when my husband and his team had gone to introduce an organic fertilizer to them, that's when he asked the question, that's when they said they had this moringa that they had, and they'd been using it for everything, for cattle, to increase milk, for the chickens, they had better and bigger eggs. And for women, it's amazing. They had had it for quite a number of years, and they didn't have anybody to sell it to. So all you need is to use, you can use the dry leaves. It has higher vitamin E. And when you use the fresh one, like when you juice it or you cook it, then you're able to also get a variety of nutrients that you get when you cook it, or when you have it in dry, or when you have it in water. Because when you put it in plain water, you get vitamin B and C. When you cook it, you get vitamin A, D, E, and K, because those ones are accessible to your body because of the oil molecule. You need oil for the vitamins to be absorbed into your system. And when you cook, moringa is not affected by heat. You actually get it, it's not denatured by heat. So whether you cook it, whether you juice it, whether you take it dry or wet, but I use the dry in porridge, and I got in a lot of breast milk. You can have it with water and lemon to build your immunity as well. I hope I've answered you, Fanny.
Sure. I like that. Thank you so much, because I want to pass the very same information to farmers here and those who would need to use moringa. Thank you so much.
But you also need, you can join a nutrition class to be able to understand more.
I like that because I actually might be about promoting nutrition, mainly in women and children under 5. So we are into sweet potato, orange face sweet potato, orange maize, as well as cassava. So thank you so much.
Any other questions before we end this office hours? And just want to thank everybody for their time today, and for hearing from Elizabeth and taking the time to look over, you know, some of these financial matters that we think will be important. I'm about to launch on Mighty Networks the recording as soon as I get the recording back from Zoom of this session. I also just put up the recording from Tuesday. So probably if you check your emails, then you should be able to have a message from Mighty Network saying that the recording from Tuesday is up. And it's not just the recording, we have many links that Looney had mentioned. And I just wanted to bring up again the similarity to what Elizabeth was saying, to what Looney was saying.
What are we going to do?
If you have a, excuse me, if you have a concern about the people who are working and doing your finances, that's what this class and this chat was really about, was to get everybody comfortable with looking at finances and what they are. But to hire a great person to do your finances that you can trust. And Elizabeth had found luck in hiring a third-party company, because maybe you don't need to pay somebody full-time to do that. And again, one of the links to one of the companies that Looney has actually invested in Ghana that does this all throughout Africa is listed on the Mighty Networks page as well. So yes, thanks, Legrand. And so I'd like to leave some closing notes, some closing messages to Elizabeth, and then closing message to Samuel. So Elizabeth, do you have any messages to end with today? You're still muted. If you just unmute yourself, we didn't hear you yet.
So for me, I think what would be most important, because as entrepreneurs, sometimes you come from various, it's just the passion that drives us. We are peculiar people because we are driven just by the passion of what we're doing. And sometimes you're not very keen on your accounting, but as you grow, it really, those numbers really matter. Having the right accountant, having the right people to work with is key for your growth. So take some time to understand your P&L, to understand the projections, your balance sheet, to be able to follow through with what is hitting your account on a daily basis would really, really help you to be able to grow your company without a lot of losses.
Yes, very, very important to manage the money so that it doesn't go the wrong way. And Samuel, would you like to add anything now?
Mine is to appreciate Elizabeth. Thank you so much for the good presentation, sharing about your companies. Yeah, what an amazing story. Good to mention that I'm not new to Elizabeth, but I've just had a story that I've never had. So thank you so much, Elizabeth, and together I'm sure we'll be able to grow. For the rest, just to encourage you, let's use the Mighty Network to interact with each other. As we said during the kickoff, we expect you to interact with at least three members here. So today we have heard the story of Elizabeth. Feel free to reach out to her, inbox her, and continue to have that interaction. Peer-to-peer review is very important. So thank you. So I'll see you next Tuesday during
yeah, if you like this session, you're gonna love next Tuesday, but because we're gonna be hearing from, I don't know, 4 or 5 or 6 different alumni about their different business models as well, so that you can see what model you actually have and if there's different models that you could apply to have additional streams of income as well. So thank you, everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
See you guys.
Thank you, Amanda.
Bye,
Thank
bye.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Amanda.
everybody.
Thank you, Samuel.
Bye-bye.
Thank you.
Nice
Bye.
to meet you again. Bye.
Bye bye, Combined Fusion.
And thank you, Michelle, for our
That was great.
translation.